Have you noticed that 99% of people fail not because of their abilities, but because they try to live the life others want them to be? Every morning when you open your eyes, you're not living your own life, but responding to someone else's script. You strive to be respectable, but never ask, who defines respect? You toil away, striving for money, promotions, clocking in, and posting on WeChat moments, all for someone you've never met to like your carefully orchestrated life. But haven't you noticed? Your success is growing, yet your happiness is growing. People say you're promising, but only you know that the excitement after every promotion is followed by a sense of emptiness. You constantly talk about higher and better, but you dare not even ask, what do I really want? Because you're afraid that if you admit it's not what you truly want, all your previous efforts will become a joke. But that's the true tragedy. You're not lost in failure. You're trapped in the illusion of success. You have everything, yet feel like you have nothing. It's not that you're incompetent, it's that you're living in the wrong direction. You're not chasing a goal, but the applause of others. You're not striving for freedom, but a false crown. And this crown, every day, strangles your breath. Napoleon Hill said, if a man lacks a vision of his own, he is condemned to work for the vision of someone else. You think you've chosen to strive, but in reality, you've simply chosen to obey. You work hard not because you love life, but because you're terrified of being looked down upon. You're not running, you're fleeing from the voice that constantly questions, who am I? I know a 30-year-old executive at a public company. His WeChat moments are filled with photos of champagne and yachts, but in a private conversation, he told me, what I fear most every day isn't working overtime, but being ignored. Do you see? Someone can make all the money without even figuring out who they are. This isn't an isolated case, it's a common problem of our time. We've been trained to be productivity machines, but no one teaches us how to live as authentic people. We're taught to chase grades, rankings, and KPIs, but no one teaches us how to respond to our inner hunger. You can run fast, but if you're sprinting in the wrong direction, it will only push you deeper into despair. So I want to ask you, is what you want truly what you want? Without likes, applause, and rankings, would you still be willing to live like this every day? If no one sees your hard work, would you still persevere? These are questions you must answer for yourself. No one can make this choice for you, but I'll tell you this, you have the right to refuse to perform. You can stop living within the filters of others. You don't need more approval, you need to be honest with yourself. True strength isn't about showing off, but about rejecting a life that doesn't belong to you. But you might be wondering, if I stop trying so hard to show myself off, will the world forget me? Let me tell you a story from Dell, yes, the founder of that computer company. Michael Dell dropped out of school at 19 to start his own business. He had no education, no background, and no so-called decent future. But he had one thing others lacked, courage. He dared to say, this isn't my path. I'm going to build my own. And the result? He assembled a computer in his dorm room and became the best in the world. He won not because he was smart, but because he refused to follow the path others had mapped out for him. You have this kind of courage too, but it's been suppressed, crushed under the weight of others' expectations, your parents' standards, and the comparisons of your friends. You think you're working hard, but you're actually just trying to please others. You think you're striving, but you're actually trying to curry favor. The scariest part is, you've forgotten when you started this way. But once you stop and dare to ask, is this still the life I want? You'll find that the giant balloon of fear inflating your mind will instantly deflate. It's just an illusion, not reality. Once you see this clearly, you can regain control. You can begin to decide what to keep and what to let go. You'll begin to realize that true self-discipline isn't about pushing yourself to the brink of collapse, but about having the courage to say no to things that don't belong to you. Think of Jack Ma. He once said, today is cruel, tomorrow is crueler, but the day after tomorrow will be beautiful. But the key point is, he didn't add, you have to get through tomorrow. You see him speaking eloquently on the world stage, but you don't see him being turned away at a KFC interview. 29 people interviewed, 28 were accepted, and he was the only one who wasn't hired. How did he endure that humiliation? He didn't get caught up in the maelstrom of what others think of me. He told himself, I define myself. Defining yourself is the most important battle of your life, but most people give up on it. Because defining yourself requires enduring misunderstandings. If you stop trying to please others, they'll call you apathetic. If you refuse to engage in meaningless competition, they'll call you lazy. If you stop pandering, they'll call you arrogant. Can you accept that? If not, you'll just have to keep pretending, continuing to portray the you who fits in, the you who's liked, the you who's safe. But you know, with that, you're dying anew every day. Trump once said, if you must think big. How much distrust has he faced? How many public attacks? But he doesn't care, because he understands one thing. Most people can only judge you, they can't stop you. You have to be the kind of person who can't be stopped. But don't rush into shouting, I want to change. Ask yourself, are you willing to endure it? Are you willing to go silent on WeChat moments for 3 months just to do something truly yours? Are you willing to risk misunderstanding and tread an untrodden path? Are you willing to forego meaningless applause just to find inner peace? If the answer is yes, then from this moment on, your life has just begun. You know, the most dangerous thing isn't having nothing, but appearing to have everything but feeling completely unfree. I've seen too many people who shine brightly on WeChat moments but feel suffocated in reality. They wear gold watches, tailored suits, and live one floor above everyone else. But late at night, when they look in the mirror, they ask themselves, who am I? At that moment, your status, your title, or your salary can't save you. Napoleon Hill once said, true poverty lies not in an empty pocket, but in a directionless mind. And I've met too many people whose direction isn't lacking, but rather in someone else's. Some people desperately pursue certifications, not out of a love of knowledge, but because they fear being called unprofessional. Some work late into the night, not because they love their work, but because they fear being called uncommitted. Some buy houses and cars, not because they enjoy that kind of life, but because they fear being called unskilled. This fear is the cruelest shackle of our time. I once asked a friend who had just earned $1 million a year, are you free now? He smiled and said, free? I don't dare quit. I don't dare stop. I don't dare let anyone know I don't want to continue. Do you understand? You chase status, but in the end, you become a slave to it. This isn't an isolated case. Even the world's most dazzling people have experienced it. Bill Clinton once said in his White House study, if I could go back to my youth, I would care less about what others think of me and more about who I want to be. This isn't regret, but sobriety. It's because he understood a truth. If your life's value is solely based on the opinions of others, you'll never be truly powerful. Think about yourself. How much of what you're working so hard for is driven by others' approval? How much is driven by a like on your social media? How much is driven by the desire to prove you're valuable and worthy? But have you ever considered that when you give your all just to get a good job, you're essentially exchanging your soul for a hollow trophy? You must learn to say no. Say no to meaningless social engagements that steal your time. Say no to meaningless comparisons that distort yourself. Say no to the voices that pressure you to live like others. This isn't selfishness, it's self-help. In a Stanford speech, Steve Jobs once said, your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. He wasn't lecturing his students, he was offering a warning. He'd witnessed countless people achieve wealth only to die in delusion. You must understand that true self-discipline isn't about waking up at 5 a.m. every day or pushing yourself to the point of collapse. It's about having the courage to ask, is this worth devoting my life to? If it's not, even if the whole world says must, you dare to say no. Because at that moment, you truly begin to live as your own person. You must understand a harsh truth. If you want to change your destiny, awakening alone isn't enough. You have to take action. Most people aren't unaware that they're procrastinating or that they're trying to please others. They can even sit on the edge of their bed at 3 a.m., staring at the ceiling and asking themselves, what the hell am I doing? But when they wake up the next morning, all their self-reflection is overshadowed by alarms and notifications, and they begin to mindlessly repeat the previous day's life. Awakening without action is just sophisticated self-deception. Look at those who have truly changed the world. They have one thing in common, they don't wait. Jack Ma once said, today is cruel, tomorrow is crueler, but the day after tomorrow will be beautiful. The key point is that he didn't wait until tomorrow is not cruel before taking action. He was rejected by over 30 companies, passed over by KFC, and ridiculed, but he still went knocking on the next door the next day. When Trump was $1 billion in debt, he didn't wait for a miracle. He negotiated, gambled, and fought hard, turning a bad hand into a legendary one. What do they have in common? It's not intelligence, but a refusal to wait. You have to ask yourself, what are you waiting for? Waiting for an opportunity? Waiting for resources? Waiting for recognition? Or waiting for the so-called just right time? Let me tell you a secret, waiting is never a plan. It's a chronic failure. With every day you delay, your ambition dies a little, and your faith is worn away by reality. Procrastination won't destroy you instantly. It's a slow-burning poison. It doesn't hurt every day, but it steals away your future. True execution is starting, regardless of whether you're ready or not. Steve Jobs didn't wait for perfect technology before making the iPhone. He launched the first generation and then refined it. Dell didn't wait to get his degree before starting a business. He worked on his computer in his dorm room. Clinton didn't wait for the perfect opportunity to run for office. He took the stage, learning as he went. They didn't wait because they knew time is the most expensive commodity, and waiting is the most extravagant waste. You must learn to act immediately, turning want to do into do it now. Even the smallest step, even just turning off your phone, picking up a pen, and making a list is more effective than daydreaming 10,000 times, because action creates momentum. Once you take the first step, the second step becomes possible. Once you start running, opportunities catch up. But most people don't even dare to take the first step. They fear failure, fear being laughed at, fear being questioned. But have you ever considered that these very fears are already quietly happening? Are you afraid of being looked down upon? If you continue to do nothing, others will truly look down on you. Are you afraid of failure? If you keep procrastinating, you're already failing. Are you afraid of being misunderstood? If you keep pretending, you won't even have a chance to be truly understood. So, act now. Not tomorrow, not until next month's paycheck, not until the next New Year's resolution. Act now. Listen carefully. If you keep waiting, keep hesitating, keep living in other people's scripts, you will spend your life paying for one thing: regret. Regret is the most expensive debt in this world, because it can only be repaid with the rest of your life. Napoleon Hill spent 25 years studying success and came to a shocking conclusion. The most common cause of failure is not ability or resources, but procrastination. Too many people spend their lives saying later, someday, when I'm ready, but the only thing they've prepared is the words he could have engraved on their tombstones. You don't want that sentence engraved under your name. Ask yourself a question. If you lost everything tomorrow, money, titles, labels, who would you be? Without all the likes and applause, what would you have left? If the answer leaves you silent, it means you still have a lot to do. Stop telling yourself stories. Don't say things like wait until I save enough money, wait until the kids grow up, wait until the situation stabilizes, or wait until the world gets better. The more you wait, the fewer opportunities fate will give you. The world rewards only one kind of person, those who take action immediately. Jack Ma said, you should still have dreams, but don't forget what he followed with, what if they come true? But the prerequisite for realizing is to start working on them today. Trump said, think big, but what he actually did was act big. Steve Jobs said, stay hungry, but he was hungry and building every day. The essence of their success wasn't some magical idea in their heads, but their courage to tear that idea apart and turn it into reality. So now, I want you to stop, look at your life, and ask 3 questions. First, is what I'm pursuing truly mine? Second, if no one sees it, am I still willing to pursue it? Third, am I willing to start now? If you can't answer yes to the third question, then asking the first 2 questions 100 times is meaningless. Now is the moment. Not tomorrow, not until Monday, not until I'm moved to tears during my next New Year's Eve speech. You need to write down your first thing tomorrow. You need to delete that app that wastes your time every day. You need to make that phone call you've been afraid to make. You need to bravely say no to those commitments that are draining your spirit. Stop pretending. Stop waiting. Stop pretending there's always time. You hearing these words now is no coincidence. It's destiny's reminder. You've woken up, so stop living like a dream.